Good morning. Okay. Hi, Benjamin. Can the rest hear me clearly?
Good morning, Joyce.
Good morning,
We can hear
Anastasia. Good
you.
morning. Fine, thank you. Good. Excellent. Thanks, Dr. Shroff. Thank you, John. Okay, excellent. So, welcome to today's meeting. I'm Joyce Gashugi Waweru. I am the Chief Executive Officer at the Packaging Producer Responsibility Organization, PAKPRO. We are one of the PROs, producer responsibility organizations in the country, having been operational for the last 7 years, supporting producers to be able to ensure they are compliant, and now with the extended producer responsibility regulations of 2024. The purpose of today's meeting is to demystify a notice that was published by NEMA urging producers to go to register themselves on the NEMA portal. And beyond that, to also provide some sense of alignment. We know we have been receiving a lot of questions from yourselves and from people who are also new to understanding EPR. We appreciate that not everyone is fully aware or conversant with EPR as a subject. And so we hope that today, with the lineup we have, which is really the implementers at the regulatory authority, NEMA, both Anastasia Valu as well as Dr. Ayub Masharia are on hand. They will answer your questions. And so we are going to give them the length and breadth of today's meeting to be able to do so. By way of introduction, Anastasia Valu, I would like to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to the participants. For your note, we are recording this because we appreciate there are those who will be late. But because we expect that there will be many questions, we want to start on time so that we allow for a lot of engagement with NEMA. And then we will share the recording with everyone. So, Anastasia?
Thank you, PAKPRO
Excellent.
CEO. And good morning, producers and delegates. My name is Anastasia Vialu. I work for National Environment Management Authority in the Directorate of Environmental Compliance in the Department of Waste and Chemical Management and the specific division of Extended Producer Responsibility. And we will be interacting with you as we roll out the EPR regulations of 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Anastasia. Is Dr. Ayub Masharia on the call yet? Okay. Okay, he'll introduce himself when he comes. So Anastasia, I think for guidance and clarity, we wanted you to take us through what are the requirements for producers. From the notice that was shared by NEMA, we want to project it, and then you can be able to just take through producers so that they can understand what is the requirement from NEMA, what are they expected to do, what do they get when they register, and then beyond that, what is the transition period between now and May 5th that they need to be compliant with respect to the extended producer responsibility regulations. Anastasia?
Yes, Joyce, I hear you loud and clear.
Yes,
And
excellent.
you said you're going to project the
Yes,
notice that
yes,
went to the
yes,
public on
yes,
producer registration.
Yes, let's project it for you so that you can take producers through it. But in the meantime, because there are those who have joined us today, Anastasia, who do not know about the regulations and maybe the genesis. If it's possible, just for 5 minutes, just explain to them what these regulations are, who are they applicable to, and then after that, you can jump into the notice that I will project.
All right. Thank you. Uh, the Sustainable Waste Management Extended Producer Responsibility Regulations of 2024 that were gazetted on 4th of November 2024 are regulations that have been on development for since 2018. I just want to give a background. This approach, the Extended Producer Responsibility Environmental approach, came in or was first initiated after the ban on plastic, where the bakery sector were expected to put in place take back scheme, and that is how they came together and formed extended producer responsibility scheme to manage their product. At the same time, in 2018, the private sector came together and had a framework of cooperation with the Ministry of Environment and NEMA on how they would manage the PET waste, and that is where PETCO, then now PAKPRO, was established to undertake the obligation of managing the PET products for their members or the producers. So these regulations, their objective is to introduce or to provide a framework for mandatory EPR schemes. You know that PAKPRO and KPRO and other schemes have existed before these regulations, but on voluntary basis. So these regulations come to address the challenges that these voluntary schemes have encountered. And the scheme covers or it applies to products listed in the first schedule of these regulations, the producers of those products, and the EPR schemes thereof that will be formed or established to manage these products on behalf of their members. Then the obligations of a producer, I suppose I'll go through the obligations under this publication or this public notice.
Yes, yes, Anastasia.
Can you enlarge a bit?
Yes. Can I share? Okay, there we go.
It's okay now.
Yes.
Yeah, so I've done the introductory bit. I've highlighted on the scope of these regulations. So the key highlights under these regulations are that they apply to producers, and producers in this case as defined in the Sustainable Waste Management Act of 2022, which encompasses manufacturers of products, importers, and brand owners, entities that introduce products to the market through authorized means. Then, so in this first bullet, I would advise the producers to look at the first schedule that provides the products that are covered. And so if you are either a manufacturer, an importer, or a brand owner of those products listed in the first schedule, then you are supposed to comply with these regulations. On the second one, the regulation highlights the extended producer responsibility obligations. The obligations are as prescribed in the Regulation 5 of these regulations. And the first level of compliance is where the producers are required to register with NEMA. So all the producers of the products in the first schedule are expected to take first step by registering with NEMA. And this registration, there is a provided form through which the producers provide the details, and they make an attachment of their registration as a company or as a business permit, And then they provide a document to show the products that they deal with, which of course should be those products listed in the first schedule. And they make a payment of 5,000 shillings. This registration is a one-off registration, as in, as long as you're dealing with the products that you have indicated at the point of application, you will not be required to register again. But in the event that you change or you introduce new products that were not in the registration, then you'll be required to do an application for registration. In that case, you'll go through the entire process of registration, including the payment. So at this point, I will advise the producers at the point of application, just make sure you list or you provide a list of all your products to avoid double application, because at this part of registration, the producer is issued with a unique identification number, that is the producer responsibility number. And it is this number that will be used to identify and track you by the authority as well as by the collective extended producer responsibility scheme that you will belong for the management of your product. Uh, For the application, there's a link on our website. We wanted to do it to automate so that once you apply and it is processed, you can just print the certificate from your side. But this seems to be taking a bit of time than expected. So for the producers, they can start with downloading the form from the website. Then you fill the form and submit it. There's a USSD that will be provided for the payment. So for a start, we're going to start like manually. Then as we continue, because the EPR application system is being developed, we expect in a few weeks, like 2 weeks, we will be online and the whole process will be automated. Uh, Yes, so apart from registrations, on the obligations of a producer, apart from registration, a producer is expected after registration to either establish and have establish an individual EPR scheme and have it registered by NEMA. And the scenario that allows for establishment of a EPR scheme, individual EPR scheme, is a producer of a sole product where there are no other producers dealing with the same product. There are no other producers dealing with the similar products. And when I talk of similarity, I mean the aspect of similar nature products like plastic products or glass products, or products that have similar use like packaging products, or products whose result and waste is similar and is subjected to similar end of life or end of use management. So if a producer finds themselves in a scenario where they cannot find other producers to join together to form a collective EPR scheme as guided by those three criteria, then that producer is allowed under these regulations to establish an individual scheme for the management of their products. So once you establish the scheme or even the collective schemes, they're supposed to apply for registration from NEMA. And once they are registered, they are expected to apply for license to operate that scheme. And of course, the requirement for registration for the schemes are also provided. A key one is it has to be a company registered by guarantee, that is to facilitate producers to join to become members of that company. So that is a key requirement. It has to be a company registered by guarantee. The next key requirement for the registration of EPR schemes is the EPR plan. EPR plan, and the components of an EPR plan are highlighted in Regulation 16. And a major one is the baseline of the products covered by that scheme, a baseline on the volumes introduced to the Kenyan market, and of course the nature of products, and how those products, if they are existing infrastructure in terms of collection, in terms of recycling, or safe disposal. So those are key requirements, and I want to assume that these voluntary EPR schemes are already putting in place those requirements so that they are able to facilitate registration. Then, so for the producers, once you submit your application and pay the prescribed fees, the authority will take about 21 days to review the application and to issue a record on decision. Then, um, hmm, 4, part 4 is about all producers or brand owners of products listed in the first schedule shall within 6 months of commencement of these regulations apply to NEMA for registration and issuance of the extended producer responsibility certificate. Yes, this implies that by 3rd of May, all the producers of products in the first schedule by 3rd of May, all the producers of products listed in the first schedule will be expected to have registered with the authority and to have been issued with the registration certificate with the unique identification number. So this is it's an ongoing process. So when it comes to 3rd of May, all producers are expected to have complied, and now the rest now will go to the enforcement aspect. Then importers of products listed in the first schedule shall within 6 months of gazettement of this shall within 6 months of gazettement of these regulations also comply, or for every import they do, they'll be required to obtain an extended producer responsibility certificate. And this is where the fees indicated in the first schedule, the 150 per item, applies. And this 150 per item will apply for some products per product unit. Like if I'm dealing with electronics, maybe computers, the 150 will apply per product unit, per computer. If I'm dealing with a product like diapers, the 150 will apply per standard packaging for those products. Then again, these certificates are processed within 21 days. And so for importers of those products, it's good to take note of this transition periods, so that by the time your products get to the port of import, you have obtained the extended producer responsibility certificate to avoid delays in clearing, because it's going to form part of the clearing documents. The next is on requirement for registration, which I have already stated. Then requirements for licensing. Licensing is going to apply for the EPR schemes. And of course, licensing will be determined by a proof that that EPR scheme is delivering the mandate or the statutory uh, um, requirements, because these schemes are going to be formed purely for execution of extended producer responsibility obligations. Licensing will be annual licensing. It's 12 months. And the requirements are as highlighted in the regulations. A key requirement is the work plan, contracts with licensed waste service providers, and for renewal, a progress report of how the obligations were implemented in the previous year. And of course, it requires to show the agreements that they have with the members of that scheme, because the agreement includes the targets that they are going to meet as guided by the national targets. So this is the call to producers, and that includes the importers, the manufacturers, the brand owners, any entity that introduces products to the market. They are required to register. And I've said that instead of doing an online for now, we have the application form on our website. You download the form, then fill the form and make the attachment, then submit to NEMA for processing. But this process is going to be automated in the coming two weeks at most. I've seen a question on clarify. I need to clarify on the 150 per item. And I said this is it applies for import of products listed in the first schedule. And for importation of these products, there is the requirement to package those products. So whatever standard packaging that your product is subjected to, that is the packaging or that is the unit that is going to be subjected to the 150. So if like diapers, if they are packaged in a carton comprising of the small packs we find in the retail shops or in the supermarket, that carton will be subjected to the 150. If it is a finished industrial or finished products for industrial use, say like chemicals that are packaged in a drum, that packaging is going to be subjected to 150. If I'm importing a car, that product unit is going to be subjected to 150. So it's not a cost that we can determine for now. It will vary from product to product. Yes, and this is going to be implemented alongside with the KRA and through the Kentrade single window system. So it's just going to apply the way the KRA rates or the Kentrade apply for this for the sake of clearing for imports. I hope I'm getting clear.
Yes,
Then
Anastasia.
I saw another question, but
Yes, there is. So both
uh-huh.
Peggy and Festus asked about the 150. Festus, are you clear on what standard packaging is now from Anastasia's explanation? Festus? Okay, he's clear. So Anastasia, I wanted to clarify something that you have said. The 150, even raw material that is going for factory production, like the chemicals you have spoken about, as so long as they are being imported, they will also still incur this 150 shilling levy.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
When it comes to finished products, we have two categories. We have finished products for industrial use, We have finished products for consumer market because a finished product is a product that has been processed and is ready to be sold to users. So users in this case, we have the consumers and we have the industrial or businesses that use those products probably to process other products or to make other items. So if one is importing a finished product for consumer market, they will be expected at the port of import to pay the 150 per item. Then after bringing the product to the market, because they are going direct to the consumer, that means we will have a post-consumer phase of those products. They will be required to join an EPR scheme. So
Thank you,
this,
Anastasia.
if I can shed more light, this importer
Yes. Mhm.
will first register as a producer with NEMA and pay the 5,000. Then now we'll be obtaining the extended producer responsibility certificate for the import every time they make an import order. Then after that, they will subscribe to a respective collective EPR scheme for the management of the post-consumer stage or phase of their products. Then an importer who is a manufacturer will first register as a producer. Then when they import in the raw material, they will be required to pay or to obtain the extended producer responsibility certificate. That means they pay the 150 at the port of entry of import. Then once they bring the products, because they are for industrial use, say like I import plastic resins, which I bring to my industry, and then I make packaging material for maybe for bread or maybe for beverages. I blow them into the PET bottles. I will not be required in this case to subscribe to a PRO because my material is for industrial use, and the users or the products that for other producers. Like I blow the PET for packaging of milk, say for company A that uses the PET bottle to package their milk to present to the market. So it is A that will belong to an EPR scheme for the management of the post-consumer phase of their products. I hope I'm getting clear.
Yes, yes, Anastasia, very good discussion. So, Lawrence, I hope that Anastasia has cleared that even raw materials that are going in for industrial use will still be subjected. They will pay the import fee, but not the EPR. Okay. Anastasia, I'm right
Yes,
about what you've said,
you're
correct?
right. You're right,
Okay,
Joyce.
excellent. Now, Bernard Karemi is asking, will the locally manufactured products be subjected to the levy? And I believe not, that it's only for the imported ones. Anastasia?
Thank you. You have
Yes.
clarified. It's only
Okay.
for imports. Local manufacturers, if you're making products and putting them in the market, you will subscribe to a EPR scheme like PAKPRO, so that your products that you are put to the market, once they are consumed, what remains, PAKPRO will take responsibility of collection and final disposal or end of life treatment. Thank you.
Sorry,
Uh,
Anastasia. Just
okay.
one question, Kentley, or two.
Go ahead.
On the importation license, you've said that every time an importer will be bringing in goods, finished products, that is, they'll be required to apply for that license. Just clarify that.
Yes.
And two, is it every time we are applying for that license, or we apply for the license once, then we'll be paying the levies every time we are importing? Then my second question, still on the first schedule, for the finished products, particularly the lubricants and the oil, the 150 in terms of units. What are we using? Is it liters? Is it per how many? We need that clarification to be made for the importers on lubricants and oils. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. When it comes to importation, this extended producer responsibility certificate is applied for every time you make an import order, because the certificate you're issued with indicates the consignment number and it has an expiry date. So it's a certificate that will be obtained every time one imports products listed in the first schedule, and it will form part of the documents you use for clearing your consignment or your products at the port.
Sorry, Anastasia, just for the last question. For this certificate, I'm looking at the fee, it's 50,000, right?
The certificate is the import certificate is
Yes.
is obtained at 150 per item.
Okay, sorry.
It doesn't have a fixed fee. It varies from product to product.
Is that the fee that you're paying for the importation products or the registration certificate? That's what I need to get. For the registration certificate, it's only once per year, if I'm getting you right. Yeah, that's where I am. So we have first the registration of a company as an importer. For example, where we are, we'll register as an importer. So I need to know for every time that I'll be importing products, because we import products varying from months to months throughout the year. So every time I'm importing different products, for example, the lubricants, will I be applying for registration of that certificate, or it will be once, and this I'll just be subscribing to paying this amount of fees depending on the number of products I'm importing?
Thank you. There's the first registration, and that is the first step of compliance with this regulation, is the registration of producers. The registration of producers, and in this case, or in these regulations, a producer is an importer, a producer is a manufacturer, a producer is a repacker or a refiller, as long as is a brand owner. So a producer is all that. So if you are importing, you are a producer. So you'll be required to first apply for registration as a producer. And I said this is a one-off registration as long as you deal with the products that you have listed in the first application. As long as your certificate that you're issued with includes all the products that you're dealing with, you will not be required to apply again for the longest possible. For many years, you'll not be required to renew, and that is at 5,000. Then once you have registered as a producer and you have been given a unique number, if you are an importer, every time you make an import order, you also apply for the EPR certificate for import, extended producer responsibility certificate for import. Because this certificate has an expiry date and it indicates the consignment number. So it cannot be used to clear other products in future. It only applies for that, is it import entry, that order that you have done. That means every time you make an import order, you will be required to also apply for the EPR certificate to apply for those products that you are importing, because this certificate will form part of the documents we use to clear our products at the port. So every time you import, you apply for the certificate and you're issued with a certificate to clear those products. So it's not an annual thing. It applies to us as long as you're making import orders, you need that certificate. So there's the first and one of registration as a producer. Then there are the import certificate, import EPR certificate that you get every time you import products. And I think I've responded to the questions of Daktari. Joyce, you can proceed. Are there
Yes.
another
Good
question?
morning.
Yes, there
Good
are other
morning.
questions. I want to allow Dr. Shroff to ask, then Lawrence, then Alfred. Dr. Shroff?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Joyce. Good morning, Anastasia. Dr. Shroff from Excel Foods Division. I
Good
fully
morning, Dr.
understand.
Shroff.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning to you, Anastasia. There's only one clarity which I want to obtain. Up to the importation and the issuance of importation EPR certificate for that particular specific imported item, that is clear. And every stage also that is clear. But suppose if you value add that imported product, and Anastasia, as you said earlier, I just want to reaffirm, if you value add that imported product and make it into a product, let's say a PET bottle, or let's say a jar, okay? Will we be subjected to another additional EPR levy? Please clarify. Thank you, Anastasia.
Thank you, Daktari. At the point of value addition, that is at the manufacturing or in the industrial setting, it depends on what value adding for. If I'm value adding or I'm blowing the packaging material for another producer to use to package their products, in that case, I will not subscribe to an EPR scheme, because if I'm blowing or I'm value adding for someone else to place those products in the market, it is the responsibility of that business or that facility that would use my packaging material to put their products in place in the market. So in that case, the one placing those products in the market or in the consumer market will belong to an EPR scheme. If I import and value add as Anastasia and brand them as Anastasia and place them out for the consumers in my brand name, I am expected to belong to an APR scheme. So in that case, then I will be required to pay applicable APR scheme to relevant scheme or to my scheme where I am a member.
I have understood you, Anastasia. Thank you very much for the clarity. Asante sana.
Asante Daktari.
Lawrence?
Yeah, okay, thank you. For me, it's just an understanding. Maybe the reading I misunderstood, because Section 6 talks about finished products. And even define a product at the beginning of this legal notice, there's a definition of a product. So my understanding was that this, because this will be internally generated, I'll use this thing, I'll not introduce it to the market. So can you explain to me why the EPR is being introduced for the raw materials that I'll use in my factory and the spare parts? Some of these spare parts we import are packaged, but I'll use it in my factory. So why should I pay the EPR? Because my understanding was the whole idea of EPR is to extend our responsibility as producers to the products that we introduce in the market. But these ones are not introducing in the market. So kindly clarify that point for me.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't get your name, but I really appreciate
Sorry,
your
my name is Lawrence Maiteri
Lawrence.
from Bambuni. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Thank you, Lawrence, for that question. The aspect of the EPR fee as that applies for imports is for, I mean, when it comes to the finished products, I said there are two categories of finished products. Because where you get your raw material, it's a product of a completed process. That means, like the plastic resin, they have gone through the petrochemical process, and that is the product, the finished product of that process. So where you buy them from, they are already finished products in the market for users to buy. And users in this case could be the direct consumers or could be businesses that use that to develop or to manufacture further products. That is why even the raw material are being looked at as finished products. And when it comes to the market, it's the Kenyan market, or rather introduction of products into Kenyan market, which could be through importation, or it could be through local manufacturing. That is why the import fee applies for both finished products for industrial use or finished products for consumer market. And I forgot to mention that NEMA is doing the EPR implementation guidelines to clarify on the gray areas in the regulations. And before we publish the guidelines, we're also doing a fact sheet that will be in the website as from next week, answering some of these or clarify some of these areas that are not quite clear to enhance compliance. I hope, Lawrence, I have adequately addressed your concern.
Actually, I'm a bit more alarmed. Okay, so for example, just so that I maybe understand it correctly. So if I'm importing paper bags, which I will value add, use it. So I'll need to pay 150 shillings for each paper bag that I use to pack cement. If I understand you correctly.
Can shed more light? I said the 150 per item applies for some products, the per product unit. And I gave an example of a laptop. So when it comes to laptops, the 150 will apply per laptop. Then for some products will be based on or will be modulated, guided by the standard packaging. So I want to assume, Lawrence, at the point of import, these paper bags do not just come as a paper bag. There's a way you package them. Probably.
I would imagine they're in bales.
Yes.
And
so
the bales are not standard. It really depends from manufacturer to manufacturer, because it's a raw material.
So then it will apply per bale. If it's per carton, it will apply per carton, assuming that carton comprises of many units inside. But for like electronics,
you can see how vague that clarity there can introduce big challenges. Yeah?
Yes, I agree with you, and that's why I said we are also working with the Sensitization and the KRA to look at the way they look at the products as they're being imported. And we want to provide more clarification into this through the EPR implementation guidelines. And I know there are concerns on the use of this 150. You realize in, like, for example, in a recycling, a product cannot be recycled um, uh, infinitely. It reaches a point where it has to be disposed. So this 150 will be used to establish like the landfills for the final disposal of some of these products, or for the residual waste that is results from these products. Thank you.
Lawrence, you okay?
Moderator, I've had my hands up for a long time.
Yes, okay. Ogambi, you can go ahead. Go ahead.
And thank you very much for the invitation.
You're most welcome.
The spirit for sustainability is very important. However, we must not make it expensive for the importers. I think there's need for better clarity on the payments. For example, if you say it's going to be per item, and somebody is bringing, for example, diapers, would it be per piece or per package or per BL or per entry? I think we need to revisit this and have clarity so that, as the previous speaker says, it is not possibly abused. The other thing is we must not make our production expensive. For example, if we're importing raw materials and you end up paying so expensively for sustainability and other levies, then that's not appropriate. And then lastly, I want to urge NEMA to work with Kentrade for the purposes of application and even for the approval, so that we have one central unit that can help us to make the payments more easily. But I think in a nutshell, it's critical for us to look at the payment aspect. And hypothetically, if we're importing petroleum products in liters at the port, then how much should you end up paying? I think those are critical questions that you need to answer. And then lastly, it's still not very clear about the certificate at every import stage. Would we make reference to the word permit instead of certificate? I submit and thank you.
Thank you, Ogambi. Maybe you'd have introduced yourself so that Anastasia gets some context, who you represent.
Okay, thank you. My name is Agayo Ogambi. I work for the Shippers Council of Eastern Africa, representing the interests of importers and exporters, including manufacturers and producers in the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Anastasia?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Ogambi. And I appreciate, I'll start probably by appreciating the fact that we are putting structures in place, or we are in discussion with Kentrade so that the import certificate is applied and issued through the Kentrade single window system. So thank you for that proposal. That is work in progress. And also the aspect of permit, what the law provides for is a certificate, but it's a short, it's a certificate that has an expiry, like as because it applies for a certain specified consignment. So from your side, you can look at it as a permit, but for us, it's a certificate as guided by the law. But can capture that for the amendment in future, amendment of these regulations as we grow in the space of sustainability and circular economy. And the aspect of the standard packaging, we are in the process of mapping out products as listed in the first schedule and the standard packaging that applies for that product, or the standard packaging that will be subject to the 150 shillings, so that it applies uniformly for all importers.
Anastasia, he asked a question that I think has also been asked in the chat. So when importers bring in oil, lubricants, maybe they are not packaged, how will the 150 be applied? Will it be based on the liters?
I think for lubricants at the point of import, they are packaged in drums.
So it is
And
per drum. And
yeah,
oil, the same will apply.
oil is packaged in what?
It usually comes in a ship, then it's discharged.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes, it comes in a ship, then it's discharged. Now, this is the question they're asking: is it going to be is it the liters, or will it be how will this 150 be applied?
So, sorry, Joyce, just to cut you,
No
so that
worries, go ahead.
Anastasia can give us clarity on this. For lubricants and oil, they come in different units. So it can be a liter, it can be a 2 liter, it can be a 5 liter, it can be a full drum of 200 liters, or as big as the ship. So that's the clarity that you want. For the small packaging, maybe for example, 1 liter, 2 liter, 5 liter, 10 liter, or 20 liters, are we going to pay the same 150 for the different units? Because the packaging is different. It's not universal.
Maybe I can seek more clarification. When the lubricants are in per liter, as in 1 liter, or let's say less than 20 liters, is it a single item, or are they in a carton, or are they in a bulking packaging?
So for us, for example, the 1 liter will be in a packet, for example, maybe 12 piece or something like that. For the 10 liter, it could be, or 20 liter, it could be one independent, maybe packaging. Then for the big drums, then again, they will be independent. But all of them, again, will be maybe be confined in something like a standard packaging through maybe small barrication to avoid damages through during the shipment process.
Yeah. Okay. Then for the package of whatever pieces, the carton that comprises a number of the liters, that carton will be subjected to the 150. The drum that comprises of many liters, it will go for 150, as long as it's a unit, it's a standard packaging. That's why I said on this is quite a gray area, and I've said that we are in the process of doing a list of the products and the packaging that will where the 150 will apply. And once we are through, we will share. We will discuss with the stakeholders, the importers, and then we will assess the applicability, because this 150 will be charged as per standard packaging. And this standard packaging is also not fixed. It varies from product to product. So it's quite an area that needs clarification, and we are working on that.
Thank you. Lastly, as you consider this, I'm just assuming, and I know it's true, a liter of oil could be less than 150 shillings. So I'm just wondering if I'm to import a liter of oil and pay more in terms of living than the actual cost of the product. I don't know how this is feasible for any business in Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We will be looking at that as we look at the standard packaging as well.
Thank you, Anastasia. And it also, I guess, applies. Someone has rightly asked about cereals, like maize that comes in ships. So maybe you could also apply that to the same when you're doing for the oils, because it also they also come in ships, and so they're also asking how will the 150 be applied in that regard?
Thank you.
Yes, it's the same.
I hope as we look at these products, we also making reference to the first schedule. I'm trying to look at maize is packaged in what? In bags.
Yes, some comes in sacks, but
Uh-huh.
there's maize that comes in from the through the port, main port, in a shipping in a ship, and it's discharged
Because if it
like
comes
grain
in,
bulk handling. Yes. So it's a question of, and maybe that's also speaking, Anastasia, when you're doing the guidelines, just to provide clarity on maybe what is either going to be exempted or not, or how products that do not have structured packaging, how the 150 is applicable to it. Because this is the other question that is coming up here.
I have captured that
Yes, yes.
for our
Let me give
clarification.
Francis Ogola a chance. His hand has been up. Francis?
Joyce, have we
Yes.
addressed the aspect of the import through the of cereals in the ship? Because
No, we haven't. We haven't. It is you to tell us. I
if
see
it's
Dr.
not packaged,
Mashina's hand is also up. Continue.
if it's not packaged, if it's just, do you mean that we import some things that are not in any packaging? They're
Yes,
just
yes.
in direct contact with the ship?
Yes, like it will just be discharged. So it goes into those green bulk handling facilities where it's then moved into and even for the oil is what the previous speaker was asking. The one that is not in any container, what happens to it?
Or it comes in like the tankers.
Yes, it's just discharged into the lines.
All
Where it
right.
goes to be stored maybe Kenya pipeline in Mombasa before it's then moved.
Whereby the conveyance is through the pipeline.
Yes. So those are two questions that are critical because then those are also very key importers. And you can imagine with the volumes that they're handling, it would be an issue. So I'm seeing the questions coming in so quickly. Can I allow Francis to ask? Then we go to Dr. Masharia. Francis?
Yes, can you get me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so this plant is African cotton. So I wanted to ask this issue of now the raw materials that you import to facilitate your production in Kenya. Now, this EPR, the law on sustainable waste management is applicable in Kenya, and it is talking about manufacturers, importers, brand owners. So it is not for the importers. It is just talking about importers. I don't know in the regulations where it is talking about now the raw material.
Francis, we've lost you.
Yes, you can't hear him.
Yeah, we've lost you. No, we are not audible. You're not audible.
Now,
Maybe
can you
drop
get
off.
me?
Yes, yes, we
Can you
can. We
get me
can hear
now?
you. Yes, yes.
So I wanted to ask now that the regulations are applicable in Kenya, and as Anastasia was saying, that the country of origin or the place of origin of these raw materials, when they're coming to Kenya, they are considered finished goods from where they are getting them from. But this law is not applicable in those countries. This law is applicable in Kenya. So it is in Kenya that is referring to a finished product that is introduced into the market. So in those countries, it can be a finished product, but when it is coming to Kenya, it is coming as a raw material. Now the person who is importing these is registered in Kenya as a manufacturer. So he will be like, now for us, you will import a jumbo to make a tissue paper or a serviette or something. So it comes as a big roll. Yeah, and you are registered as a manufacturer. So it is something that's coming for someone is already registered in Kenya to produce it to a finished product. So why are they referring to a finished product in another country, but the law does not apply? This law is only applicable in Kenya, and you are importing it as a raw material. And now, and it is talking about now the finished product, because now all along we have understood that when you are importing a finished product, it is possibility that now it is coming directly into the market. So for the finished product, that would be understood, but you are bringing in a raw material. So I'm having a problem where the clarification is referring to a finished product in another country, which this law does not apply. So we needed clarification there, because now this will be now double payment, that you are paying for a raw material to come and produce a product, then you pay. Yeah, so I have a problem with that.
Okay. Joyce have been here for a moment.
Yes, Derek. Okay, go ahead. Then Anastasia will answer both. Go ahead.
Yeah, just to add on to the point of the last speaker, this is us looking at the law in a very weird manner. Because if we are talking about finished products in Kenya, we should be talking, first we need to understand what is an industrial waste and what is packaging waste first. Second, if we are having these raw materials coming into the country to make finished products, the only people who I think should have been part of this levy are the people who are bringing in finished products or goods that are used to make packaging materials. You see, for us, we are getting in, say, for instance, bags of sugar. If you bring in 200,000 bags of sugar or 20,000 bags of sugar, and you're charged per bag, and we still pay EPR fees for the collection of those bags in case they find themselves in the Kenyan market, then what are we doing? Are we supposed to pay in perpetuity? Are we supposed to be paying for every single thing that comes in whilst we are still paying for them internally? Because it doesn't make sense if you have you have joined an EPR, you've registered as a manufacturer, you are paying both sides, you have all your licenses in place, you're bringing in a raw material to make a product that's a consumable that is not going to form part of anything packaging in the market, then let us be charged from the EPR's point of view, like the EPR fees that we pay once we make our declarations. What this is trying to do is to get us to pay twice, which doesn't make sense.
And maybe Anastasia, before you answer that question, I can summarize the questions on the one on payment as per Derek's question. So there's one question that's been asked in terms of what was the actual criteria that was used to come up with the 150 per item, and is there provision for this levy to be equitable from Bernard Karimi, that a person who is importing carton diapers is paying the same amount as a person importing a cow. And then the last question is regarding the payments as well. Just to clarify, someone else had asked, if you are importing products solely for export, how do you classify those?
Thank you. Thank you, Joyce. And I want to also acknowledge my director and Dr. Ayub. So I will respond to some of the questions, and I will also bring him to respond to other concerns. So on the aspect of, I think I'll start with the first one, where the products are not packaged, they are brought a ship in form of a tanker, like is it the fuel or the oil, and it is channeled through, or it's conveyed through the the pipeline. It is discharged through the pipeline. In that case, I don't find in these 5 categories where that is catered for, because ideally it is not packaged. It is channeled through the pipeline until it gets to a point and it is packaged into packaging for distribution or for sale in the market. At that point, that importer will be expected to join an EPR scheme. But if you introduce any of the products listed in that schedule, or if the same oil is packaged in containers, like in drums or in to the EPR fee. I hope that is clear. On the aspect of cereals, if they are imported without the packaging or in the same scenario and probably placed in the silos or wherever it is placed for packaging, then the EPR fee will not apply for the shipping, the ship or whatever container they're using to, I suppose the ship where the cereal is just in direct contact with the ship, because this vessel does not leave the port. It's only the product that is put in silos and probably packaging. So packaging, if the product is in packaging in the polypropylene bags, then those now will apply or will be managed through the EPR schemes. So even as we look at the import certificate, find ourselves within the product that are already defined in the first schedule. The aspect of finished product for industrial use and finished product for consumer market. For consumer market, that one is clear. For industrial use, when you bring these products for your manufacturing process, it comes when it is packaged, or you bring it when it is packaged. You use the raw material in your facility, and the packaging. The packaging within the industrial setting is probably collected by the licensed waste handlers and taken for recycling. For example, if it is plastic, and as I explained, this recycling is not perpetual. It gets to a point where it becomes waste. When it becomes waste, and this manufacturer is not a member of our EPR scheme, that waste, that residual waste, will require to be placed somewhere, or the end of life disposal. And these are the landfills. And these landfills are the ones that are still being and within the custody of the county governments or the government. And therefore, there is need to enhance this or to maintain these landfills that will receive that industrial waste that was once channeled through the licensed recyclers, not through a PRO. So that 150 is used to cater for that industrial waste. I hope I'm not complicating the issue more. Then so in that case, it is not double charging, because if I import these plastic resins and I pay the 150, I make products. These products they are for other producers, and these producers are already members of the EPR scheme. In that case, the manufacturer is not a member of an EPR scheme. So the only EPR fee this manufacturer pays is the 150 per item. On the rationalization of the fees, it's a tricky issue, Because as I said, for some it applies for standard packaging, for some it applies for product units. And like the person importing a vehicle will pay the 150. The person who has a standard package, a carton of diapers, will pay 150. So this is not fixed. For a start, it's just going to apply variably, as it's not fixed.
Anastasia, sorry for interjecting. Kindly, I just need some clarity because you mentioned one part where you're talking of a manufacturer / importer who is not part of a PRO and they have an end life industrial waste. What of that manufacturer or importer who is part of a PRO? Who pays his EPR fees to the PRO?
That is the manufacturer. I import raw material. For example, the chemicals, I import chemicals packaged in drums. I pay the 150. I use this chemical in my manufacturing setting to make products. In my brand name, I put those products to the market. In that case, I will pay the 150 and I will belong to a EPR scheme because I am introducing products, and these products I'm processing or value adding and placing them in the market. That means my products will have the post-consumer phase where they're supposed to be managed by the EPR scheme.
Just to interject, can I talk?
Yes,
Yes.
go ahead,
Now,
Francis. Then we give Ayub a chance after.
I wanted, okay, the explanation given that now when you are importing raw materials, it's coming as a packaging, it is coming with some sort of packaging, then you are coming to dismantle the packaging and you are producing your products in your brand name, then you are introducing into the market. Now, when it comes with that packaging that is not my brand name, you see now in the factories we also have the general waste, and we are required to have licensed waste collectors. So these licensed waste collectors, which are also having permits with NEMA, they are collecting the general waste from the factories, and we are paying them. So when I pay at the port, and then I bring them, and because I can't introduce them in the market because I need to convert it into my brand name and my packaging, the packaging that it has come with is general waste. It's general waste that I pay the licensed waste collectors to collect them from my facility, and I'm paying them. So that is where now we are having a bit of problem, because you are paying at the port. When it comes here, you are paying the general waste collectors, which are also licensed by NEMA, and then I pay the EPR. So that is where now the clarification needed to be. And then for the clarification for the gray areas that are there, NEMA has already given a timeline for compliance and etc. Do we expect that all these gray areas will have been handled before the expiry of this deadline? Thank you.
Thank you, Francis. I can start with the last one. I said the gray areas are already addressed in a fact sheet that is being shared in the course of next week, and it will clarify on all those areas. Then on the aspect of your waste being collected by a licensed waste handler, I agree up to that point. And this waste is taken by the licensed waste handlers, probably for recycling or for disposal. And I said the 150 will is used to take care of your residual waste, because even if your plastic packaging is subjected to recycling, it cannot be recycled infinitely. It will get to a point where it becomes waste. Remember, this waste is not covered by the EPR scheme because it is within your industrial setting. It is not at post-consumer. So the moment it's collected by a licensed waste handler or recycler, and recycled, it will get to a point and become waste. Where will that waste go? Who will take care of that waste? And that is why I said we need to have a final disposal points like the landfills, where if an item is recycled exhaustively and becomes waste, then it can be put in the landfill. And that is the 1/5 that is going to cater for the landfill management for the residual waste. And Joyce, if you allow me, I can bring my director, Dr. Ayub.
Yes, that's fine.
Yes. As I take water. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Anastasia. Dr. Masharia, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Joyce. Good morning. I think Anastasia has responded to the area that I wanted to clarify. And I wanted to clarify on the fact that we are aware that some items like sugar, like maize, they may not be packaged when they arrive at the port. And so when you look at this schedule that is on the screen, you look at item number 1, it's about packaging. Why EPR was initially meant for packaging, because we wanted to address the packaging material because it has the same, if it is for hazardous, that packaging has some remains of the hazardous item, like lubricants, for example. And that is why we are very particular on that packaging. That's why 1 and 2 are about packaging. However, we also have some non-packaging items, like number 3, number 4, and number 5. They are non-packaging items. So those ones are, if it is anything plastic, anything glass, anything paper, not packaging this time, anything cardboard, you know, it is handled differently. Even furniture, tires, textiles. You see, this is now outside packaging, and Anastasia has explained that we know that all these materials will go for recycling. Everybody talks about recycling, but recycling is never 100%. There will still be some waste that will be taken to the government. It's actually the government that will receive anything that you are not able to process. And so what will the government do with it? Fine, we may bury it like it has been it has been happening before, but burying that waste in a landfill is not a long-lasting solution. And that is why we needed money, so that the government can put in place measures to make sure that residual waste is managed properly. And that is the whole essence of the Kenya shillings 150. In this discussion, there's something that I haven't had, and I hope it will come up as we continue in the discussion. And that is 150 looks very alien. Looks like you don't pay KRA when you bring your things at the port. We needed to compare your stories about this is how we pay KRA for other payments, and then NEMA is you're supposed to be paid this. So this is where the variation is, so that as we try to play around with this one per item, then we compare our experiences with KRA, because you are the ones who have this experience. NEMA is doing it for the first time, and this per item came from KRA. They are the ones who advised us charge per item. So I would have wished that the discussion could take some time also to reflect on other payments through KRA and how the 150 differs from that. Thank you, Joyce.
Can I try to answer? Can I try to answer, Director?
Yes, you can go ahead.
I've really raised my hand for a very long time.
Okay, let's have Ogambi, then we have Odhiambo.
Thank you very much, Director, and Anastasia, well done. I've had this aspiration that why can't we consider the way KRA charges? KRA charges are based on the East African Customs Management Act that looks into products against the HS code and the product against whether they're finished good or raw materials, and that's how the duties are applicable. But most importantly for us is the value for money, if you may allow. So when you talk, and the clarity of the charge. The clarity of the charge to me is what my concern is, and I'd asked it earlier. This 150, is it per item, and what is an item? And are there any exceptions or discretion on how it's going to be applied? And I started by saying we appreciate what NEMA wants to do, but you're also looking at the cost implications. So in a nutshell, we need to revisit the costing per item and look at it practically, so to speak. And like somebody has asked on the wall, how was this arrived at? We know the intent of this money, but at how it was arrived at is still a bigger challenge. I liked your intro word when you talked about packaging. And I was going to ask a question. In this packaging, are all the packages going to be recycled, to be destroyed? If not, for example, if you are importing packaging materials for export, they're not going to be consumed locally. And my ask would be, would there be exemptions so that you have brought packaging materials for exports of possibly flowers, avocados, and vegetables, and they're not going to be used locally? How would you treat that? From the Shippers Council perspective, and I want to say this as I go for another meeting, our concern is the cost of doing business because of numerous fees and charges, and possibly even a duplication. So what I'd like us to agree, Director, even in these charges, can we put a human face into it and a business face into it to ensure competitiveness of our production, to ensure competitiveness of our exports? Because the direction we are taking as a country, we are going to make ourselves extremely very expensive and lose business opportunities. And lastly, I'd like to call for a further engagement if you're going to put into place, so that whatever final products we come up with is acceptable to NEMA, is acceptable to the consumer, and even to the producers. Ordinarily in Kenya, in the EAC, raw materials are exempted from a lot of fees and charges. And I think that sets up a very good precedent that you possibly need to look into. I'm sure I may not have answered your question, but I just wanted to make those remarks, and also to thank NEMA for the opportunity to bring these discussions to all of us. I thank you and I submit.
Thank you, Ogambi. Odhiambo, go ahead so that the director picks both.
Thank you very much. My name is Frederick Alo. I represent an organization called the Kenya International Freight and Warehousing Association, or you can abbreviate it as KIFWA. Maybe for those of you who do not know, this is an organization of clearing agents and freight forwarders in the country. They're the people who are tasked with documentation of all customs entries and many part application of these permits on behalf of the importers and exporters. In regards to these regulation that you've given, number one, I think in regards to sustainable environment, this is something that all of us should look into so that we have a safe environment that is healthy and conducive for all of us. However, in doing the regulations, number one, have few issues to raise. Number one, on adequate public participation. We all know public participation is one big requirement in any legislation, and the courts have talked about it, where it's not only just public participation, but they say it must meet adequate public participation. Allow me to submit that we've tried to talk to quite a number of our members. Majority of them are unaware about this regulation, and even these the May deadline that we are supposed to implement it is going to catch most of them flat-footed about it, and I think it will bring a lot of problems in terms of customs clearance of these consignments. Secondly, I've listened to the presentation keenly from Anastasia and the director. And from the presentation, allow me to pick some quick issues. Number one, we don't understand why should you subject the importers who are our clients maybe to some sort of registration. And being and in registration, I mean, we know we are very much concerned with the delays at the ports of entry of goods and how systems at times take place. And we thank the Almighty God, maybe it entered into the heart of the government and they introduced the Kenya Trade Networks agencies that has really eased application of these permits. You've not told us how this application is done and how long it will take. There's somebody alluded to 21 days, and as a logistician, 21 days is quite a long time. If you bring your goods by air, you have 48 hours to clear them. After 48 hours, the demurrage charges that you pay is around 41 shillings per kg per day. So it means if I have 1 ton of a consignment that requires these permits, these certificates, or this registration that you said, imagine paying 41,000 shillings in terms of demurrage per day times the number of days that your certificate takes. I don't know whether you took that into cognizance. Secondly, as an entity, as a business member organizations, we've had quite a number of strides with the customs authorities, the Kenya Revenue Authority, and even the government, the treasury, on having one single payment scheme, whereby if we have maybe NEMA, they want maybe to introduce levies. Maybe we have Kenya Copyright. We have those other 45 government agencies. In order to avoid delays, why don't you do this thing through the KRA? Maybe if you have to collect this money, it be collect through one single payment platform, which is the customs entry. And when this money, because I believe it goes to the consolidated fund, unless the levies that you want to collect, maybe it will not go to the consolidated fund, you collect it through that. That's what we are working on. I don't know whether why these regulations is trying to claw us back from an already active process that we started. As third last is on duplicity. I've seen under the first schedule, there's some items that you've classified, whereby I'll give an example like the laptops that you've mentioned. The laptops, there's a body called the Kenya Copyright, charges 1.5% of the customs value as their levy. Kenya Bureau of Standards charges a minimum of $265. Quite a number of agencies, almost all those products have more than 2 or 3 government agencies, each picking a bite on the cherry from these traders. Maybe as an entity, have you sat with your partner government agencies and even sort on a way of coming up with one single fee? Because it does not make sense tomorrow. If NEMA is done with their regulation, another government agency will also come with their regulation, also want to take a bite. Do you think that is really sound for the environment? I think to me, it does not make sense. Second last, maybe to ask as a layman, what do you want to achieve with this, maybe on the practicality of it? Because this is a very interesting debate that we've had before, until there's something bad that happens to a former minister, whereby permits are introduced, these levies are introduced, whereby we are told that you either inspect, or if you do not inspect, we penalize you. So in short, somebody brings poison, they do not inspect it, and they pay the penalty, and then proceed with this poison to come and kill people. If somebody clears these consignments, these maybe hazardous waste, as you call them, and from the port of Mombasa, it goes, they consume it in Loitoktok, or maybe in Mandera. What measures has NEMA put in those places to justify the 150 shillings that you are collecting? Maybe what are you going to do in terms of the disposal of that waste in Loitoktok? or in Mandera, for example. Lastly, I think this legislation, it was rushed. There are too many ambiguities. One such ambiguity in logistics, worldwide, logistics is more of something which is international. Things are applicable internationally. A certificate is different from a permit. The explanation you are giving is for the permit, but what you put in that legislation is for a certificate. I want to assure you, maybe you need to look into this thing. You should maybe postpone its implementation, have adequate forum with people who are going to be affected by these so that you listen to it. But as it stands, I think the legislation sits on a quicksand, whereby if challenged, it will ground to a very big halt. But in order to avoid that, so that it serves the purpose of sustaining the environment, I think I plead with you, do not rush to implement it. Give time to those who will be affected. Listen more, highlight. We have quite a number of industry experts who can also help bring ideas there so that you have a very good regulation that will help. Lastly, in terms of discrimination, I think your 150 really discriminates, because there's no way you can tell me somebody brings an air or a motor vehicle, you charge them 150 shillings. A trader from Nairobi small business community brings a one container with 4,000 packages. You want to charge them 150 shillings. They pay the NEMA levy, which is even more than the import duty that they pay to carry. I humbly submit. Thank you.
Thank you, Viambo. Let me allow Dr. Macharia to respond and give his comments. Before then, we take up Benedict and PK. Dr. Macharia?
Thank you, Joyce. And I think those are very good questions. I think we need to appreciate that all along we have not handled our waste properly, and now we need to handle the waste properly so that it doesn't become a burden to the future generation of this country. And that is why we decided to activate the polluter pay principle, whereby those items that have been problematic to us, very problematic, we have flagged them out, and those are the ones that the government feels that we receive this residual waste, and so we need to manage it. And where do we get the money? So now we have some money to think about how can we do a facility in Nairobi County, do another facility in Mombasa County to handle these problematic fractions, because they'll become harmful to us. And so I would wish that we support the environment. You know, there are times we pay other monies and you can't explain what for, but this one is very clear. And so let us not be too critical about it. About public participation, this law went through a lot of public participation. Actually, this is one of the laws that we consulted very many times through KEPSA, through CAM, and the records are there for those public participation meetings. We are happy about the single payment, and actually that is, we wouldn't like to add an extra burden or extra delays to the process, and that is why the law even has dates when NEMA needs to make a decision, and it is legislated. There will be no duplicity, because we have looked at, you know, this law is built on the Sustainable Waste Management Act, and the EPR is quite broad, and if you study it keenly, only that we don't have time, you realize that there is no duplication. It is everything is standalone. What do we want to achieve? I would say a clean and healthy environment, so that we know what is coming to Kenya, so that you can bring anything. You know, we wanted to open this country. The government kept on banning things. We banned the polythene bag. We were to ban PET bottles. The industry came to us and said, please, we will handle these waste. It's a waste management issue and not a product issue. And that is why, together with the industry, we developed this law. And so I would wish that maybe Joyce, you can organize more time when we can discuss further, because today I think we have the constraint of time. But I think the discussion is good. And I hope that we are ready to receive more comments from you, especially this one item issue. We are ready to discuss further to clarify that item. But so far, it is the standard packaging. Thank you, Joyce.
Thank you, Daktari. And yes, indeed, today is just the first of several engagements. I think it's important to note that NEMA has committed to publishing a fact sheet next week, which will have some answers to some questions, as well as the EPR guidelines coming much later after that. But nonetheless, we will definitely have subsequent engagement. I know that the questions are more than the time can allow. But let me allow Benedict to come in and then PK. Then we can just read out what is in the chat and close it out for today before we have another session. Benedict?
Thank you, Jays, and thank you, Daktari Macharia, for what you've been able to guide us on. I will kindly request that you review the 21 days for us to get certificate for clearance, so that you can also be able to help us. I had a question on what we import, because we realize that we may import and export around 15% of whatever we import. And in this case, we are asking whether we can either request for reimbursement of the 15% we export later. Thank you.
That's a good question, a valid one. And Dr. Macharia, let me tie it to someone who asked whether that 150 can be passed through to the consumer. Maybe you can answer with that question for Benedict.
Now, thank you. About the import and export, you know, it's a discussion that we shall have amongst NEMA, the PROs, and yourselves, the importers. So if you have something that is destined for export, then it means that it is not placed on the Kenyan market. And so we just need to keep discussing in order to come up with a way of operating, making sure that nobody is harmed. No business is harmed by this law. So we are listening organization. We are ready to listen. Advisors, you are the ones on the ground. Our issue is, if something is placed on the Kenyan market, then after the consumer finishes, that waste must be handled properly. That is why we need the EPR. Through Joyce, through KAM, through KEPSA, we are ready to hold more forums, so that when you look at our guidelines and you feel that there is something that is not good, please discuss with us, NEMA. We are ready to discuss with you to make sure that we have a better working environment. About passing the cost to the consumer, that one I don't know. I think somebody else can help me there. Thank you, Joyce.
Thanks, Daktari, for the honesty as well. I want you to come in and just talk about enforcement, but please let me just talk about PK. Do you want to quickly ask something so that we give Daktari? Remember, Dr. Ayub Macharia is the Director of Enforcement and will be ensuring enforcement around this regulation takes place. So we just want him to give us maybe just a quick preview of what that looks like before we close the meeting. PK?
Yes, thank you, Joyce. My name is Paul from Kinangop Daily. I think most of my questions have been clarified, but my emphasis is on the 150, the item number 1, where most of us, the concern was the how you categorize the items. For example, I'm under scheme and I'm paying 12,000 for a metric ton of UBC. So that is fino packaging material. So even with the 150, we need to know at what quantity. Is it a metric ton? Because my packaging material are classified as atoms. So when I go to the scheme, I'm paying 12,000 for a metric ton that I discharge to the market. So I would also like to know, when I'm getting those packaging materials from outside, am I going to pay 150 shillings per metric ton, or is it per piece, or is that is just the clarification I wanted to get. But I think it has been clarified, but it is not clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for joining. So I think Dr. Masharia, that's an important question he's asked. But please tie it to the enforcement. I know you also pressed for time as we close.
Yeah, thank you, Joyce. Please allow me to share something.
Yes, please go ahead.
I like being structured, but about that question, I do wish to say that the question is good. It's good to clarify what is it that what do we mean, because your figure is 1 metric ton, and I think from the NEMA side you also need to understand. Then what about from the NEMA side? Does it change? So that is something that we can discuss with you during this implementation phase. So I would urge the members, don't fear NEMA. We are ready to talk with you. Yes, don't fear that we are going to intimidate you, that we are going to harass you. No, what we want is something that is friendly to both of us. The 150 is a description of what kind of engagement we want, but now about the item, let us develop the item together. We have already prescribed ours, but if you feel that we need to amend, we are ready to amend. Now, allow me to talk about enforcement. I have a few slides. There are 7. This one, you are familiar with it, that if you are a producer, an extended producer responsibility compliance scheme, if you are dealing with any product in the first schedule and any other product that negatively impact the environment, then you rattle my department. You are subject to enforcement if anything goes wrong. And so what we have done is we have mapped our nodes. Where shall we be? Where is enforcement placed? So the placement points are the import declarations. So you expect that there will be declarations about what you are putting in the market. We also have environmental audits. So for all the local producers, we are keen on, are you really compliant? And so we will look at your environmental audit to tell us about the figures, about your membership to PROs. Then we'll be keen on what products are there in our supermarkets, in our shops, to make sure that only products that comply with the law are placed there. And then we will also get more information when things are not working. And this is important for the PROs, the pollution hotspots, the rivers, the illegal dam sites. This is where we will know whether the EPR is working or it is not working. And then we also do audits for PROs to make sure that they are really working, and if they have any challenges. I think most of you are familiar with this model where we are already enforcing. Enforcement has started on the EPR law based on section 13 of MCA and also the EPR regulations, because in the absence of a PRO, the producer is held responsible. And so what we are doing is we have started with rivers. If we find your product in the river, we are asking you two things. Number one, clean that site. Make sure it is clean. We don't want your product there. And number two, we are asking you for assurance that tomorrow we will not find your product there. And so we are asking for the engagement plan for the value chain. And the value chain here includes the waste picker, the aggregator, the recycler. So how are you working with them? And normally we would like even to hear from them that for that site, they are aware about what you are doing. You have also seen, most of you have also seen this slide, those who have been to our meetings, that we are now in phase 1, where we want to make sure that there are no joyriders. That is an enforcement aspiration number 1. Everybody must be in an EPR scheme. And then we will do a lot of assistance. We are ready to listen to you. We are developing these systems together. That is why I said, don't lead too much from the law, because we will work on it together with you. And I'm sure Joyce is helping you to understand the law. And then we will develop systems, but we make sure that the environment is clean. We want data. Data we want, and again, I repeat, data is key in EPR implementation. And the stakeholders are key in the implementation. And that is why if you look at our enforcement technique, if we find the project in the environment, we ask you clean it because we need clean environment. Then stakeholders, they must be involved because the waste pickers must collect and dispose properly. That will enable us to go to phase 2 where we will attract a lot of investment. We want to attract if we enforce properly and it works, then it will attract investment, jobs. We have waste becoming a resource. And phase 3 will be left for those who have products that are not good. That will be later. Later, we will discuss that. And phase 3 is where we are, the money, the 150, is channeled towards addressing phase 3, so that we know the government can invest in handling that residual waste. So from 5th of May, we are beginning our full-blown enforcement. Right now, we are issuing orders. And so if we are to prosecute you, we can prosecute you for disobeying a lawful order to clean the environment because you are found there. But we will expand the scope from 5th and charge you about your obligations. If you fail to register in a PRO, then definitely we will charge you because the law section 21.1 says that. If a retailer places on the shelf, on the market, a product from a producer who has not registered with NEMA, then definitely it will be an offense. And then if a producer gives misleading or false information on quantities or held or managed under the EPR scheme, it will be an offense. And then a producer who is not a member of a related producer responsibility organization, a free rider, or who does not fulfill their individual obligations, it will be an offense. And the penalty is only one, unfortunately. So for all those offenses, you'll be given a fine of between 2 to 4 million or a jail term of between 1 and 4 years or both. So that is what we are waiting for. So this will, right now we are prosecuting based on disobedience to a legal order, because we know that you have not registered, you have 6 months. But from 5th of May, then all this will kick in, and we will be pressing more charges on the producers and also the PROs. Thank you very much.
you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Masharia, for that succinct brief. I think the question we are being asked is whether we can get the slides. I believe, Dr. Masharia, you will share this with us. Then we can be able to just share with the companies so that they can also do their own internal alignment and socialization, and as they prepare for the transition. I know the questions are still there. But allow us, as PAKPRO, we'll consolidate the questions in the chat that might not have been responded to. And we will also be supporting NEMA to give them this as feedback so that even for them, they can be able to use it. Isaac, let me allow you because I know your hand was up for a while. Isaac?
Thank you, Joyce, and thank you, Director and Anastasia. My question, which they maybe need to clarify, at what point do they declare a residual waste, especially during recycling? They said some residual waste will be taken to landfill, and this money that they're charging will cater for that residual waste. Most company will maybe recycle 30% of input, and at what point does NEMA now say this is residual waste? When I've seen many production, what comes in is actually recycled. So at what point do they say this is so justification for that charge is what needs to be linked to how to identify this is now a residual waste?
Okay. Dr. Mashari, I know this, so usually have a response. Yeah. Please proceed.
That's a very good question. So residual waste, you don't need to be worried about it. Just take it to the landfill, to the dump site. It will be received there. Actually, this law, what we are worried about is collection. We are at this moment we are worried more about collection, transportation, and safe disposal, so that the waste is not disposed in the rivers. So that is our main worry. But we know that some of the products that we have can be recycled. So some will go for recycling, and we'll be taking data on recycling because we want to improve the levels of recycling as we go along. But for now, our main emphasis is collection, transportation, and safe disposal in the dump site. Later, that is why we need the 150, so that when we want counties to do something, they don't tell us, oh, we don't have money. That 150 can be used to fund, we can be able to reorganize the country so that we can have big facilities in some places. Some counties can combine forces and manage waste in 2 counties or 3 counties. They can manage waste together from the facility that will be done using the 150. So for now, the residual waste, please take it to the dump site to be received. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Masharia. So Ogambi, Frederick, Lawrence, I want to hope that those are old hands. And as I've said, the questions that we have not yet responded to in the chat, we'll be able to provide them to NEMA. And then once we get response, we can be able to share the same with you as we await their fact sheet that Anastasia and Dr. Masharia have spoken to. I think on behalf of PAKPRO, Dr. Masharia and Anastasia, thank you so much for participating in this webinar. It has been very insightful and informative. I know not all questions have been answered, but thank you for this preliminary engagement. We are looking forward to having many more as we move along to crystallize this process. I think to all our members present and all participants, thank you for your attendance. We will be sharing the recording of the webinar as well as the slides that were shared by Dr. Masharia. Do have a good weekend, and the rest of your Friday should be enjoyable. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. You're welcome.
Chris.